Hi guys, and welcome to the first video in our channel relaunch. I've been working on a series of peaceful, relaxing crafting tutorials on a variety of topics, and up first is a fan favorite, wig work. I've been making a series of pride flag wigs lately, and my newest design is an ace flag for a friend, but with a slightly more pastel slant. The defining feature of these wigs are the perfectly clean horizontal stripes. Personally, I think this works best for flags with 4 or 5 stripes, but you can create your own design with any combination of colors and striping. This clean striping is really emphasized by the wig's undercut style. The hair fibers are only an inch or so long and very tightly packed, which makes the color gradation that much sharper. Typically, dyeing a two-toned wig requires dipping one half and then the other in a dye bath. But in this case we have distinct coloring in the center, which would make dipping impossible. Instead, to create that perfectly clean striping, I'll be disassembling the wig completely, cutting it apart before dyeing each section separately. I made this trans flag wig previously, and once reassembled you can see the stitch marks where each dyed section was sewn back together by hand. I'm beginning with a white wig from Arta Wigs in their Kyle style, which is a short undercut. Whenever dyeing multiple contrasting colors like this, you always want to start with a white or a light wig in order to prevent any muddying of your final colors. Dye will overtint any color already present on the base wig, it's not paint, so adding a blue tint to a yellow wig might result in something a bit more green than blue. To prep my wigs and prevent sliding, I like to pin them onto a wig head with ball-tipped quilting pins. With that done, it's time to mark the lines of our stripes. Bobby pins are a great tool for this, and I'll just slide one into the wefting to mark each stripe's edge. I'll be trimming down some of the longer hair once dyeing is complete, so I'm ignoring it for the time being. Before cutting into any wig, I always check and adjust my marks while I'm wearing the wig on my own head. Styrofoam mannequin heads are smaller than the average human head, so what might look great on the form may look too small on an actual person. Once that's done, I'm ready to begin cutting my wig into stripes, using each bobby pin as a guide. However, I can't just cut along the pin. Instead, I need to cut along where that hair weft is actually attached to the wig, not where the fiber ends. You can see this a little better on an already dyed wig example. Lifting up the tips of the fiber exposes the weft line where the hair is actually sewn down. This is the area we need to cut away. To find the right weft to cut, gently lift the fibers that end at your bobby pin. Push up until you expose the top of the weft, and then mark the inside with a pen or a marker. Once all 3 stripe lines are marked, it's time to begin cutting. Wig wefts at the crown are sewn to netting, but the bottom wefts are sewn to stretchy elastic, which is what we need to clip away in order to separate each section. Position your scissors over the elastic next to the marked weft, and cut. I decided after marking that I actually wanted my bottom stripe a little wider, so in this case I moved up an extra row. I've clipped each elastic in the row, as well as the soft elastic on the edge of the wig. With everything cut, I can remove the bottom section. Moving up, I'm going to do the exact same thing for the second stripe, finding the marked weft's row and then cutting each piece of elastic. Take care to slide your scissors over any wig fiber and avoid cutting as much as possible. The top row is the final one to tackle, and this row is the closest to the crown of the wig. Because it's up so high, the edges of this weft are attached to the solid ear tabs, which is not as easy to cut, mostly because the wig fiber keeps falling in the way. I found it easier to hold my thumb over the cut row and then fold the ear tab down, pushing the hair away at the same time. Cut along each tab, and your wig is now separated into 4 ready-to-dye pieces. This is Finnick, by the way. He's the most helpful of our 4 cats, and really likes to think that he's making a difference. Now, when coloring a wig, there's a lot of different options out there. Sharpies, Copic markers, ink, these are all great options, and honestly, I use them for different projects. But for small pieces and bold colors like this, I turn to polyester dye. Polyester dye requires a minimum level of heat, so you'll need a stove top or a burner, and crafting-only pots and tools that are not used for food. It's really important that you buy a separate pot for this, as you do not want to be mixing the place where you cook your meals in with the place where you dye your wigs. For this wig, I'll be using RIT Dye-More, and be sure to pick up dye that is formulated for polyester and not for natural fibers like cotton, otherwise the color won't stick to your plastic hair fiber. I like RIT a bit more than iDye because there's less of a smell, and also the liquid is a little easier to handle compared to iDye's powder. However, I did first consult my color chart to determine what colors to add to the dye bath. I created these charts a couple years ago through a lot of dye testing, and you can actually find them in my book, The Art of Extreme Wig Styling, both in the ebook and the physical version. For the Ace wig, I want a pastel purple with a slightly more pink tone, so I'm adding my purple as well as a small splash of pink, mixing them together with crafting tongs until thoroughly combined. Once the water is near simmering, I drop in the top layer of my wig. Stir constantly for several minutes, regularly lifting to check the color. Allowing the fiber to rest against the side of the pot could cause discoloration, so be sure to stir and always use a large enough piece of cookware so that your wig can float freely. Once finished, I like to use a second crafting pot to transport my wig so that it doesn't drip. For the remaining stripes, I switched to a smaller pot. These pieces are much smaller, and less water means that I can achieve a higher concentration of dye with less product. A higher ratio of dye to water will result in a richer color. This is especially useful when dyeing black, or in this case charcoal, as black tones will require more dye than the other colors. With the dyeing done, it's time to wash away any excess color. This is an important step if you don't want your wig to bleed onto your clothes. Massage in a generous amount of soap, and then wash the wig under some warm water. I'll repeat this process 3 or more times, and then begin submerging the wig in soapy water until it is no longer bleeding color. Drying can take several hours or overnight if you wish, and once each portion of the wig is dried, it's time to begin reassembling, as soon as we move Finnick out of the way. A little styling is usually in order, since the hot dye bath will change the direction of the fiber. Again, wigs are plastic, and so applying heat is the best way to retrain and reposition that fiber. In this case, I'm using a blow dryer to heat the fibers to a malleable state and then comb them into a straight line. As the fibers cool, they will remain locked in that direction. Shorter wigs don't require as much restyling as longer ones, but there's a few areas that are too wavy for my liking. The bottom stripes mostly escaped unscathed, although 1 or 2 spots do require a touch-up as well. And finally, I can start the long process of resewing the stripes back into a single wig. This involves aligning each stripe and then placing it back where it originally belongs. Align each of the elastics, and then I'll whip stitch each side together, doing so for every cut area on every stripe. This is tedious, but overall it's a pretty simple process. Once finished, flip your wig inside out, and now we have our original wig back together again, except now with some fantastic, very clean striping. The final step is to give our wig a bit of a trim. I personally think that the top layer of hair is a little long in the back. I want the area towards the back of the wig to be completely striped with no overhanging hair, and this will require trimming down that top purple layer. I primarily use two tools when trimming wigs. The first is a straight razor or a razor comb. This is a very fast way to layer hair, and I'll usually use it if I want to quickly cut away large portions. As you can see, I'm cutting away that bottom portion of hair very quickly, but the razor comb also feathers the hair as it goes, cutting away strands at random and guaranteeing a more natural feathered cut that's very important for synthetic wigs like this. My second tool is a pair of shears. I actually use the shears very similarly to how I use a razor, by combing the blade through the hair, not actually cutting. This is a type of slide cut that slices the fibers at different lengths, and again creates that feathered look, which is what I really do prefer with my wigs. Holding the scissors tilted upward is another way to thin the hair at random, with more controlled cuts. I very rarely hold the shears and cut straight across the hair. The only reason I'll do that is if I'm cutting away stray fibers, otherwise the resulting cut can look very blunt and unnatural. Regularly comb away any cut fibers, and once finished, I always give my wig a very thorough brush over. And with that, our wig is complete. I'm really happy with the pastel look, as well as our decision to flip the flag upside down to give the purple more area to shine. I hope you guys enjoyed the first video in our channel relaunch. I'm sure you all know how hard it is to start out on YouTube, so giving this video a like, subscribing, or clicking the notification bell really does help me a ton. I also want to know which topics you guys want to see next. Some things I've been thinking of are wig styling basics, gold work, puff embroidery, cosplay design, or foam clay. If you want to see any of these, just comment below with what you're interested in. I'll also be making a silent version of this video if you're an ASMR junkie like me, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. No, I'm not gonna play with you. You're gonna have banana. Yeah, that's your banana. Do you think I should just do this with him here?
If you think you can.
I mean, he's kind of just chilling.